of them.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our first live stream of the new Herd Winter Racing Series. Tonight we have a single lap of the Ocean Lava Cliffside Loop, and you can probably say all those 4 words in a different order and it still makes sense. We are slightly late tonight, but we are live and currently following various riders of no real description until Craig gets all the things sorted out. But I am watching Matt DeFreitas, who normally rides at the top end of B category, and he's currently sat in 10th wheel. So a group of, I would say, probably 15 riders just pulling away from the others as we start to head around the volcano after the little climb, after turning left out of the pens. Steve Pritchard, who are you watching tonight?
I'm watching Lisa, best dressed member of the herd, Jones. Jonesy's in 40th in a group of little herd riders here, and I've missed the jeopardy of this, James. I don't even know when I'm talking right now whether anyone can hear me because, Craig is running things. We've started late. We can't see the riders we're talking about. This is what the herd stream is all about for me. Following some riders, maybe you not be able to see them. You maybe not be able to hear us, but us having good fun doing.
The irony of you saying that people may not be able to hear you when people may not be able to hear you is it's interesting. Chris Greenland, who are you following tonight?
At least we have each other to chat with. I am following herd rider Ian Elston. I've ridden alongside Ian at a few herd events in the past, so it is with absolute pleasure that we're going to stream his race, maybe, and see how he does, maybe. But either way, I'm going to be watching and stalking.
Yeah, so Matt's had a good start. I was a little bit worried at the very, very beginning that it looked like there's a little bit of a breakaway in front of him, but they've all come together on the slight climb out of the pens, heading towards the volcano. They are now out of the volcano. They are just about to hit the switchback after the volcano and do a little right and left. And then they will have a little flat section before a 3% grind heading towards the switchbacks. Steve, how's Lisa doing?
She's doing all right. She's caught up with a bunch. They're just coming out of the volcano now, so there's actually quite a nice bunch of them all tacked together after that. It's just frankly, it's a manic start, isn't it? I've never liked that start out of the marina. I think the only consolation is that you turn right at the top of the marina on this one and don't go left through those kickers. But yeah, they're in a strong group. Guess it's about 20 riders, just closing up to a group in front of them as my internet goes very jerky. But yeah, they're closing up with a group in front of them and a few more herd riders. So just settling down here. Brent, where's Ian?
Chris.
Thank you, Dave.
Ian is tacked onto the back of this front group as well. Agreed, that was a pretty bonkers start, especially with that hill. And it looked like they were getting a little strung out coming out of the volcano, but that downhill always helps to compress everything and bring everybody back together. So it looks like they've settled down a bit here. I can see Matt with his fancy red hat there. A few ATP riders, actually a few more than a few ATP riders, and a couple of OTRs in here as well. So interesting to see if we'll see some team tactics from those teams as we get into the gravel switchbacks, which are coming up here, God, before you even realize it, right?
Yeah, it's coming up soon, and I think our viewers can see Ian and Matt, not Lisa at the moment. So yeah, I think that's the first point where we're going to see a bit of a selection, isn't it? These gravel switchbacks.
Yeah, I think this is the section where when we raced this last series, I think pretty well in the next sort of kilometre is where I start to lose the front group when we go through the muddy section or gravel section and the gradient starts to kick up again, because I think there are a certain couple of people in the race who wanted to inflict carnage on absolutely everyone. No names being mentioned at the moment. But Matt DeFreitas still looking good. Currently sat 4th, 5th place. having a nice start to the race. We are 5 kilometres through our 90-kilometre race, over 1/4 distance, but the fun is yet to come. Steve?
Yeah, this is where it went mad in the race earlier, by all accounts. So looking at some of the watts per kilogram, there's people doing 8-9 watts per kilogram, 30 seconds, 1 minute powers. I think it's 7.5 watt per kilogram, 1 minute power earlier on. So that must have been through this section. So we're just hitting the
ATP
start of the
attack,
gravel.
ATP attack,
Yeah,
ATP
off the
attack.
front, right at the base of the gravel switchback. So starting to see some attacks coming here.
J Box doing 7
up.
watts a kilo. And oh, is he able to stay away? I don't think he's going to stay away. Looking like a lot of people are following at quite a high pace. See, Matt De Freitas doing a whole 7 watts a kilo, the highest he's ever done in his entire life. And they are all chasing after J-Box from ATP, who's got a 1 second lead, but it's looking like it's coming back together. And surprisingly, Andy Kroll out of ATP is pushing off the front as well to try and rejoin his teammate, but we are back. Sorry, Steve.
No, that's good. Looks like there may be a few herd riders pushing it on a bit in the group with Jonesy in. Although it's fairly cordial at the moment. It's mostly sort of fours, so nothing too pokey for Lisa. Maybe people saving themselves to the climb a bit more and not smashing it too much on these switchbacks. How things at the front with Ian and Matt?
Ian just put in a massive effort to stay with that front group at the top of the switchback. So good on him to reconnect. That attack, it looks like it did dislodge some people off the back. I'm seeing a few dots drifting backwards after that. So well done to stick with the group there, Ian. Of course, now after that, everybody has to recover a little bit in the group and get ready for the epic push, right?
Yeah, so Matt's still front this main group, holding a little over 4 watts a kilo. So it's been so Matt's FTP is probably bang on 4. So it's definitely been a big push for him, and we're seeing all kinds of ATP jerseys in this front group. A couple of OCR riders who don't have their own jersey, but they like to choose one of the existing ones. But ATP, because we've got a team in the Premier League in ZRL. They are all fully kitted out in all splendour, as are the herd. And there are so many ATP riders in this front group. We've got a good selection of herd in here as well. We are just on the very, very gradual decline going around the switchbacks before all living hell breaks loose on the start of the Epic KOM. But we're just about to hit 7 kilometres, 1/3 distance, just over. And Matt's doing a great job so far. Steve?
Jonesy has absolutely clung on by her fingernails there. She was yo-yoing off the back of the group. Maybe got a bit hampered by an ATP rider that was dropping back a bit, but managed to hang on to their wheel and is now hopefully just dropping the watts down a bit, trying to recover a bit on the drop down here. But yeah, great job, Jonesy. She's really clung on. There's a couple of riders got dislodged on that lovely little 4% kick that follows the gravel section that really does kind of, as you come out the Italian villas, really does kind of start the legs burning, I think, in this section. But now Lisa's now 2.5 watts, nicely resting in the middle of the bunch, so all nice and calm. How close to the reverse epic start are you guys?
So we're just going around the hairpin before we head onto the straights. We'll go over the bridge and then onto the start of the epic. But it's looking fairly comfortable at the moment. Most riders are holding, I'd say, probably actually low 2s on this slight downhill. I think everyone knows what's about to happen, so they're all just settling in for the big climb of the event. But I think we've got 3 herd riders in here and possibly 7 or 8 ATP. So ATP have absolutely turned out in force. Chris, is Ian still in there?
Still tucked in nicely with this group, yeah. Looks like he's conserving some energy, trying to get the heart rate down. This is the point, if you are one of those riders that got dropped on the gravel climbs, I think it's time to pull the ripcord and wait for the group behind you. I'm seeing single riders that are still between this first group and the second group that are pushing high 3s. Somebody's doing 4.4 at the moment. By yourself, this is not where you want to burn that effort. because you're going to get caught by the big group behind. So just sit up, save the matches or match, and burn it when it's needed. Don't burn it now. You're just going to lose the places anyway. But yeah, Ian's still tucked in here nicely, doing a great job.
Yeah, we've just got the first sight of the solitary hill in this race. So we'll have, I think it's about an 85-meter climb, and so we're just heading over the timber section, and then we will start to do a few little squiggles as we head up the very start of the Epic KOM before we turn left onto the bypass. But it's all about to kick off here. Quickly over to you, Steve.
Yeah, just going through the gravel sections, through the sort of other marina section that we go through. Just watching the pack dynamics. I've not really done much racing since the pack dynamics have changed. They do look a bit more sensible. Have you guys racing found it makes a huge amount of difference to the updated pack dynamics?
I'm not certain they've
No.
released the final update, which by all accounts on the test rides has been very positive. But we've just hit the start of the Epic KOM, and ATP have launched an almighty attack. We've got orange numbers all over the place, some in the 10s, some in the 9s. So evidently that's been their tactic. I suspect they're all on Discord going, yes, we're going to do 10 watts a kilo for the first 1 minute, get up this hill. So Matt finds himself in 50th place. He's got Stuart Lynn also from her just behind him. Matt in 16th, just about to ride over into 15th, maybe, no, not quite. But ATP have definitely had a coordinated attack here. A couple of the OTI riders have gone with them. Matt up into 15th now, closing on a couple other riders. But that's been a really, really big push. And can they sustain it up the rest of the hill? Not entirely certain, but let's find out how Ian Elston is doing.
Ian is struggling here at the back. He gave it every effort, trying to catch up to Szymanski and Chan, the two OTI riders directly in front of him, even dropped an arrow on a 7% grade, but has sensibly dialed it back a little bit. I don't think he's going to catch any of these riders that were in the front group. And while I was speaking, he bumped it up again, but now is again conserving back in the mid 2s. I would say best bet for him, if I were him in his shoes, I would sit up a little bit, wait for the next 1, 2, 3. There's 3 riders, 26 seconds back, and try to gruppetto up and pick off people who overcook themselves.
So,
yeah.
So Matt's just reached the top. He's just on the bridge, which is still 3% gradient. His watts are still high. He's been hitting way over 300 the whole climb, which is a massive effort, and we're like getting on to 15 minutes into a race. He's currently 13th wheel. He's got an OTI rider just in front, McVeigh, only a second away, and we'll potentially be able to catch on to him. Otherwise, he's got a group, quite a big group just behind him, 4 seconds back, so he could slip back to that as we go downhill, but we're just about to turn left onto the rolling section. Steve, how close is Lisa to the top?
Well, we've just done the second switchback where you hit 11%. Jonesy really sort of tempoed at the beginning, wasn't going much below 4 watts per kilogram. Just looks actually towering a little bit now, is sort of in low 3s more than anything else. And a rider's just whizzed past there. That's really interesting. But she's in a small group with Kay Barker from ATP and Kay Lash, who is wearing her jersey. So I don't know if he's a member, and has probably stayed about in the middle of the group she was in. But that group is now in loads of small pieces all the way up this climb. We're just finishing. Oh, a nice little strong burst there from Jones, who goes to 4.5% as we hit the 8% left turn and head towards the bridge. That marks the end of the climb, really.
I think Matt's just realised that he's not going to catch McVeigh in front, so he's just sat up slightly. When I say sat up slightly, he's still doing 3.6 watts per kilo, just to let this group that's 2 seconds back catch him up for the rest of the rollers and then onto the downhill. So we will see how that's going. Chris, how's Ian doing? Is he has he dropped back to that group?
Still by himself. He's got some riders. I don't know. The rider list is doing some funky weirdness in terms of timing and scoring, as it always does. So it looks like the closest rider in front of him is 26 seconds up the road, and the closest rider behind him is low 20 seconds behind him, 22 at the moment. So definitely by himself. But it looks like the group behind is maybe three at this point, maybe four. I can't quite tell. He's putting in every effort. He is absolutely giving everything to stay where he is. So well done on him. But it doesn't look, based on the efforts of the riders ahead, it doesn't look like he's making up any ground on them. He might get caught by some of these guys in the back that are putting a dig in. So we'll have to see, especially with the descent coming up. Those guys are going to be moving a little bit quicker.
So Matt's now dropped back to this group. So it's a group of what appears to be 6, 7 even, and they're all staying together over rollers. Decent pace, high freeze, and Matt looks relatively comfortable. Heart rate in the low 150s. I think he maxes around 170. So I said relatively comfortable. It's not that comfortable, but it's not that bad either. He's sticking his nose in front. Carl Matthew, get towards the back of the pack. Do a Bowser. Steve, Lisa.
I'm feeling a bit cross on this behalf. There's a couple of riders that have just come past casually doing 4.5, and it makes you wonder why they're doing that here and not up the climb where they'd actually be further up the race. So it's kind of blown apart the little group she was in earlier, but she's working hard to get back up to them. Having said that, they've now slowed down again, so just a bit of weird riding on Zwift. So Lisa's just struggling to hang on to the group in 39th now. Hopefully she can catch on to the back of the ATP rider that she's been kind of pretty level pegging with the whole time now, and do him in the sprint at the end. How about Ian?
Ian's still settled in nicely here in 21st place. The gap to the front riders has grown out a little bit. The gap to the riders behind has shortened up to, looks like 11 seconds now. So again, putting myself in his shoes, I would try to time getting caught by these guys behind before we start descending. Otherwise, there's every chance that they're going to gain speed and just blow right past you without any hope of latching on. So might be worth sitting up here and making sure you're firmly attached to these riders before we begin the descent.
So here's a question, guys. So let's say you're Ian Nelson, you've got a 25-second lead, which obviously he doesn't have anymore, but you've got 25 seconds to the group behind. Do you try and time trial it at FTP and hope you can hold them off, or do you sit up and wait for a group?
For me, it depends on what the group behind is doing. Like, I see riders doing 4.5, 5.3 at the moment. I can't time trial my way away from that. So if they're taking their sweet time, then absolutely I'm giving it. But looking at the live data, I would not.
Just noticing
I think that's what I'd be looking at as well, is how hard are the group going. Realistically, you've got to be doing a good few percentage points more watts per kilogram than the group behind you because of the boosting speed of the blob. Another guy's just blasted through at 4.5, which has just sort of wrecked the nice group that Lisa was bowsering nicely as they all do sort of 4s and 5s to try and get onto a wheel of somebody who is now slowing down again. I don't understand people's riding tactics on Zwift at times, but there we go. Where's Matt?
So Matt is in the front group, not the front group. He's in his group. His cadence sensor is doing all kinds of crazy things. His RPM is varying from 82 up to 160, and I suspect he's not actually doing 160 RPM. But it looks to have settled down now at 82, which sounds a lot more normal. But he's still in this group of around about 7 riders. Got about 5 kilometers to go, well on the downhill. We're just hitting the nasty part of the climb into the epic if you're going the other direction. So he's super tucking his way down, as are all but one of the riders. One of them deciding to pedal still and seems perfectly content doing what he is doing. But yeah, no, 4K to go. Matt is currently sat 60th wheel. I think the front of this group is probably 15th place. So Matt's going to have a battle for 15th, and he is a self-confessed not a sprinter. So we may well see an attack from a kilometre out. We will see. How's Ian doing?
Just really some textbook Zwift racecraft from Ian. Those two riders who are approaching, he timed the catch perfectly, was able to latch on right at the start of the descent, and is now just getting free speed from the draft on those two guys. So well done, Ian. Perfectly played there. And there's no greater feeling than being the only one super tucked while everybody else is laying down 4 watts per kilo and going exactly the same speed. So take this moment to recover, Ian. Well done.
Yeah, Jonesy's group has just hit the bridge. Nobody super tucked yet, although they could do. They are at 58 kph. Everyone's still pedaling, which is a bit odd. I know Jonesy said she struggles a bit sometimes with the super tuck being quite a light rider. But no, everyone is still pedaling. Oh, there we go. Jonesy has super tucked now, whereas nobody else is, which is, you say, always satisfying. How are things with Matt, James?
Yeah, still in the same group. We are just about to hit a left-hand bend before we turn right, before we then head up towards the exit of the tunnel, which will be about a kilometre away. They have caught McVeigh. There are a couple of riders just in front that they are going to lap up fairly shortly. So that'll put this very front of this group actually in the top 10. So it's all going to depend on how early can Matt de Freitas go. And Matt de Freitas loves a breakaway. For anyone who hasn't heard, and I think he's told the entire world several times over, that he had a 30 kilometre breakaway on the last event of the last ZRL, where he attacked with 30 kilometres to go on Surrey Hills. And for any of you who have not done Surrey Hills, let me tell you, it is a bloody horrible route to do a race on, because there are 5 climbs and they're all nasty and it's not fun at all. Says James, who did the race in category A and came third last. And that's enough about that. Ian Elston, Chris Greenland, talk.
That's a fun story about Matt. I haven't heard that one before. I'll have to ask him about it. Ian has continued to ride a great race here. He's tucked in with these 2 riders. They are consistently mid-4s. One of them's even touching 5 at the moment. So Ian is doing everything to stick with these guys and stay in the draft and pull out from this. There's 1, 2. Ooh, that's now a big group behind him. At least 6 from what I can see on the rider list. So he needs to stick with these guys for as long as possible and not risk moving down potentially 8 or more spots in the overall standings. But he's doing an amazing job putting in the effort to stick in the draft here. Well done, Ian.
Really depressingly, Lisa was dropped while super tucking, coming up the start of the Epic Com, which is one of those moments where I would get really cross with Zwift. He was actually racing better than none of the other guys were super tucking. They weren't pushing big watts. I imagine just big heavy riders that fall quickly. So
What? Sorry, Steve. 1 second. Matt de Freitas has already told us that he can hear us, and he's already gone onto a big sprint with about 1.5 kilometres to go. He's holding 500 watts going out the climb of the tunnel, and can he hold it? It looks like he's got some company with M Long, who will call. I don't know who we'll call him. I can't think of any animal names that begin with. Let's call him Monkey. And we've got J Box as well out of ATP. So looks like
surely if he's poking his head up, he should be the meerkat.
I agree entirely. So we've got the meerkat. We've got Andy Kroll in there, who we can't call Anaconda because Anaconda is already taken. So Ada Kroll, whose name is actually Andy. is not in this group at all. He's 7 seconds up for front. So obviously I'm talking absolute rubbish. And Matt is firmly grouped back in this group. So the breakaway attempt appears to have not worked, but we are now very, very close to the finish. And Matt needs to keep his watts up just to make sure he stays in the group. We're in the last kilometre. We're just about to head a right-hand turn onto the marina, and we are not far to go at all. And because I'm following someone, I can't see the exact distances, but I think we've probably got 500 metres to go. I could just see the banner in the corner of the mini-map. Matt doesn't have a sprint, but he's going to need to work out how to do one now. Matt, if you're listening, I know you are, grab your drops and pedal your heart out in the hardest gear you've possibly got. And they're all sprinting off now. 200 metres to go. Come on, Matt. More than 500 watts. Go, 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 go. Can see the banner. Matt is going to cross the line. P18. Over to you, Chris Greenland and Ian Elston.
We're about a kilometer behind, away from the banner. We've had one of these two other riders that Ian was with solo off the front, so he's now 9 seconds up the road. So it looks like it'll come down to just Ian versus this other Japanese rider. Both are laying down serious watts just to move down the road. We've got the group behind, which is now at least 2, 4, 6, 8, at least 10 strong, closing, but I don't think they have enough road left in front of them to close what is now a 20-second gap. Especially with these guys are going to be sprinting for the last 500 or so meters. So they are safely fighting for, it looks like, 22nd and 23rd on the road. Excellent effort either way.
Come on, Ian.
So we are about to turn right.
We're just coming out of the tunnel with Lisa with two riders. She's got the Jack Russell and I can't think of the name of an animal beginning with K. But yeah, a couple of other herd riders. She's binned them off though as they attack out of the tunnel with two riders who are dressed as bees, which is also quite exciting. How's Ian doing in his sprint?
We made that right-hand turn. The Japanese rider put in a little bit of a dig and has gapped Ian by 1 second on the road. So Ian has every opportunity here with about 500 meters to go to put in a last dig and close some space. But then we're looking at 6.4, 6.5. That rider's just going up the road. So it looks like Ian is perfectly happy. And as I say that, full out sprint. There we go, Ian. Finish strong. He will cross the line in 23rd place. Well earned. Great effort.
So the three herd riders have now caught back up to the two people dressed as bees. Lisa, I would say she's bowsering, but she's sat at 4.5 watts there. I think she's just trying to monitor riders around her as we come up the little ramp before the right-hand turn that doubles us back to the finish line. It's a very interesting place at the moment. Lisa riding second wheel in the group. Very early drop of an aero helmet there. I can only presume they're thinking the two bees of working together in some kind of weird lead-out train, although no response from anyone else in the group yet. The chap who has thrown the aero helmet now about a second off the front, but only holding 3.8 watts per kilogram, so I think easily in sprinting range. The other bee has leapt off in pursuit, though. They are affecting this really poor lead-out train to some effect. As we now have three herd riders in a row, we approach the bridge, which I guess is about 500 meters out. Lisa throwing a truck, that's probably a really well-timed power up, that one, because that's 30 seconds the truck is going to last for. So just needs to stay in the draft, Lisa. Here we come about 200 meters out. Lisa bumping it up, not getting the sprint avatar going though. And she is going to roll over. Ooh, did she just lose out to the K Lash dressed herder rider? Can't really tell. Koala, thanks. Yes, great riding there, Lisa, and great riding from the herd people there. All timed their sprints well and finished ahead of the two people dressed as bees.
Very good. Well done to all of our riders. Big thanks to Craig for the pictures. Steve and Chris for joining me tonight, and we hope to see you all again next week. Thank you very much.